In my organization of emotions into 4 categories, the angers, the sadnesses, the fears, and the happinesses, I've got 4 angers. Anger, guilt and shame, apathy and boredom. Guilt and shame being 1, apathy and boredom being 1, right? The 4th is hatred. The most intense of the angers. It's sort of anger with a rage chaser, or maybe the rage with an anger chaser or something. Hatred is an intense emotion. It's a very dangerous emotion if people don't know how to work with it, and most people don't know how to work with it. So hatred isn't dislike. It's not like, I don't like rutabagas. You know, I don't appreciate the way that you treated me. That's not hatred. Hatred is like, I want that person to die, you know. That person's, you know, you can come up with all kinds of words with that person's a monster. That person is evil. And maybe the person is a monster, but your hatred is what we're looking at right now. Hatred, I call this the profound mirror. Because what I've noticed about hatred, and this is also a part of Jungian psychology, is that hatred is a sign of a complete loss of your boundaries, right? Anger is about boundaries. Anger is about the boundaries from the outside. So if people are challenging you or trying to abuse you, your anger should step up. Shame is about boundaries with your own self, so that you aren't doing anything that would challenge or abuse others, right? Anger and shame work together to keep you upright and to keep you socially viable and also socially worthwhile, right? Anger and shame are incredibly important emotions for your entire psyche, your entire personality structure, your entire life. When hatred comes up, what it says, this is the language of emotion cards, what it says is your boundaries are gone. This person and their evilness, or whatever you want to say, has come in and has broken all your boundaries. And your shame is gone too, because you're willing to go out and attack back, right? So hatred is a sign of complete boundary devastation. And what they find in Jungian psychology, and what I've seen and what you can see everywhere around you, is that hatred is a mirror, and the boundaries drop because there's someone living out things that either you've always wanted to live out and they get to do it and you're just filled with rage about it, or because they're doing something that your whole moral structure says that you can't do and get away with, and they're getting away with it. Hatred's always about the person, right? But it's also always about you. And in Jungian psychology, there is a process called shadow work. Hatred is considered a part of your shadow, a part of the things that you can't accept in yourself and you demonize in others. Hatred is also the split side of adoration or romantic in-love feelings. Interestingly, they both light up the same parts of the brain, hatred and infatuation. So hatred is the complete loss of your boundaries in the presence of someone who is living out your shadow. And the gifts are intense awareness, piercing vision, sudden evolution, and of course, shadow work. The internal questions are, what has fallen into my shadow and what must be reintegrated, right? So once you understand shadow work, you are pretty careful about who you're willing to hate, because you know when your hate comes up, oh, I got to do some work, right? If you haven't done shadow work and you don't know anything about hatred, you may feel that hatred gives you the right to attack people, right? To dehumanize them, to put them in concentration camps, to shoot them, to hurt them, to abuse them, right? Your hatred, if you don't know how to control it and you don't know what it's about makes you into a monster, right? So it's the profound mirror. Your hatred is trying to tell you there's something in this person or this group of people that has fallen into your shadow, that you don't know how to integrate and you don't know how to work with and you don't know how to understand. Let's bring hatred up, let's get you into your shadow work, and let's do it, right? But most people don't know how to do shadow work. And it's really sad. In dynamic emotional integration, which I'm teaching, we look at shadow work in the first course. And I have to tell you that being with a group of students and a group of people who know how to do shadow work is like being in a dream. It's like being in fairyland. It's like being in the best place possible. Because people who know how to do shadow work can call themselves out. And they can say, this person is vicious, they're this, they're that, and then they can turn toward themselves and say, oh, I want to be vicious, but I can't, or whatever it is. If you've done shadow work, you know what I'm saying. Good books for the shadow are Robert Bly's A Little Book on the Human Shadow, Connie Zweig, Meeting the Shadow. Look up the shadow if you want to understand hatred. I also talk about it in my book, and I've got, I think, 4 posts about the shadow on carlamclaren.com, and I'll link them below. Hatred is a crucial emotion to understand. We talked about shame being crucial to understand because it's so important for you, for your just basic functioning every day of your life. Hatred is too, because when you're focusing that laser pointed, rage and dehumanization, it's important to understand what you've become. People who can do their shadow work are a joy and a gift to humanity. Hatred is an emotion that's important. It tells you what is missing inside you. If you can learn to work with your hatred, you can evolve as a human being. And then you can begin to work effectively to reduce the damage that your hated person has done. Let's say it's a politician and you look at that politician and you think that is the worst person in the world, and that person is, let's just say that person's Hitler. Everybody needs to talk about Hitler. And if you're just in your hatred and your rage, you're going to do violent things that really aren't going to take you anywhere important, right? You're going to create a lot of noise and problem around you, and maybe other people will join you with your hatred, and now you've got a hate group. Great. And nothing that you're doing is making the world better for anybody, right? Nothing. Focusing all of your hatred on someone is one of the most powerless and pointless things you can do. You create more ugliness in the world when you're willing to hate another person without doing your work. So for people who know shadow work, they'll look at like a politician that everybody's hating right now and go, am I feeling some hatred? I'm feeling some hatred right now. So you just go write it down. What is it about this person that is so hateful? It's this, and you will see a list of the things that need to be worked on in you and in the world in general. And then by turning your focus away from that person and onto yourself, you become integrated, you become more capable, and you become able to work with the people who are following this hated figure rather than hating them too. Do your shadow work. Learn shadow work. Your hatred is extremely important. It will show you exactly what is unfinished in you, what is unloved in you, what is unwelcome in you. As a human, you have access to all emotions and all ideas that every other human has access to. We are as violent a species as we are brilliant a species. Being able to hold all this inside your psyche makes you a more functional, more useful, more truly humane being who can actually go out and make some changes in the world and do good. Not as a reaction to those other bad guys, but because you've got a strong internal moral structure that is not going to be pulled off into impotent, childish expressions of hatred that you haven't owned, that you haven't identified, and that you haven't worked with. Hatred is the big one. If you can learn to work with your hatred, well, any of your angers, honestly, You can change the world by changing yourself. And you can go into areas where the hated people are, and you can speak to them as if they are human beings, because they are. Each one having their own reasons for following whomever or doing whatever. I said before that I worked in prisons. I went to the place where the monsters are. And I saw abused children. And I saw extreme poverty. And I saw beauty. Merely being in your hatred doesn't make you strong. Understanding your hatred does. Do your shadow work. See you soon.